Before we begin, click subscribe to stay up to date with all of our newest video content.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Six with CS3 Technology, and today I'm going to talk to you about the EEO-1 Component 2 reporting changes that have just been released by Sage Software. Before we get started, I wanted to touch base on the fact that Abra Suite, the retirement of the Sage software product. Sage announced the dates that the end of life for Abra is going to be December 28th of 2020. That's the end of their support. They will stop providing updates as of September of 2020. So third quarter update is all you're going to get. You're not going to get any of the year-end items according to the information anyways. If you have questions about it or would like to do a little bit of research on your own, we do have a lot of information provided on our website at cs3tech.com/abra. So let's talk a little bit more about Abra Suite and the Component 2 EEO-1 report. I assume that if you've joined this video, that you have become aware of the EEO pay data requirements and the related deadline of September 30th. So what does this mean for you as a Sage Abra Suite client? Well, we've been waiting for quite some time for the updates to be released, which would allow us to be able to report that data inside Abra Suite, and it was released last Friday, September 6th. Sage clients can download the hotfix for Abra on sage.com by following the same routine as you would when you get your quarterly updates. However, the install process is completely different than it is for the quarterly install. Once you have downloaded the information from or the hotfix from sage.com, you will want to open that up, and inside that hotfix, you're going to find a couple of PDF documents, a README, which you should definitely read first, a how-to, which has the recipe for everything you need to do. Then it has a bunch of files that we're going to be updating. What you need to do to remember is that you need to check that you have the second quarter update for 2019 installed on your system. What you'll do there is you'll go into Abra, you'll go to Help, About Abra Suite, and on that first screen it will have your version number, and you'll be able to confirm whether or not you have the second quarter update installed. If it is installed, then you are good to go. The install is good across the system, has been done at the server, and pushes down to all of the workstations. However, this fix that we're going to do today has to be done on each individual workstation that has to be able to access the report. You're not needing to install it at the server level, but you have to have that prerequisite install for the second quarter update before this will even work. Again, you want to start by going through the README PDF. Where you're going to do your fix, you need to make sure, everybody across the board needs to be out of Abra while we do these fixes. You're going to do these on each individual machine. You kick everybody out of Abra, and then you need to actually log into Abra and find the file path location on your machine. You can see the snip here in the screenshot where you're going to find it. You're going to go to Help, About Abra Suite as before, and then you're going to click the Additional Information button. You'll get this window that pops up. Under the default path, you may have to scroll down just a little bit to get the entire path, but everything I've highlighted there, you need to copy, and then you're going to put that default path in the URL box of a file explorer. When you do that, it's going to open up the file where your software is located. Once you've copied this default path, go ahead and close Abra Suite. Again, make sure everybody is out of Abra Suite, and we're going to go on to the next step. We're going to go back to the README PDF, and it's going to tell us that we need to rename a list of files. The way that we do this is we go into our file folder that we have open, we find each of these files, We're going to right-click on the file. We're going to select Rename. We're going to type .old at the end of each of the file names. When you go to save each one, you will get a warning that says by doing this, your file will probably no longer be able to be accessed. Go ahead and click OK on that warning, and then go to the next file and repeat that process. We have 8 files. Once you have all of those renamed, then you're going to go back to the hotfix zip file. You're going to open that up, and you're going to copy the same files that are in that one, and you're going to just move them over to your file folder. Once you have moved all of them over, then you're going to launch Abra Suite. You have just installed the entire hotfix at that point. You're finished installing it. Let's go ahead, and once we launch Abra, the first thing that I like to do is to confirm that the hotfix was installed. Do that by going to Payroll, and then under the Process section, I'll go all the way to the bottom of the list, and you should see this new item in the lineup there called Update EEO-1 Pay Data. When you click on that, it's going to bring up a page where it's going to say, do you want to update the EEO-1 Pay Data? What year do you want to do that for? I'm giving you a warning right now. You want to do all of the steps to report on 2017, including uploading it to the NORC website. Make sure it does upload before you begin to process for 2018, because you cannot roll back to 2017 once you begin 2018. It's a real simple process. You put in 2017, you say okay. You'll get a window that will pop up that will say that we found an error, either invalid data or employees not found. Do you want to view the error log? And you're always going to say, yes, I want to view the error log. And when you view the error log, you're going to see something similar to what's on my screen here. It pops up in Notepad, and it has the error at the beginning. Again, 2 different types of errors that I've seen. So this one is invalid data. I've blurred out the company name that was involved on this one. Then we have employee ID numbers, some dollar amounts without dollar signs. And after that final comma, we also have the 0, which is actually the hours worked for that year. So remember, the first year that we did this for was 2017. So basically what I'm looking at, if we look at the first row, is that this first employee, number 54787, earned $44.92 in 2017 and worked 0 hours. What I instantly thought of was, oh, we have somebody who was terminated in 2016. They didn't work at all in 2017, but they did receive a check. Maybe it was the last check of their employment. Who knows what it was. That information needs to be updated on the employee record. We're going to hold on to this error report. Either save it so that you have it, print it out, whatever. You need to keep a copy of it. We're going to use that error report as a reference to go in, and here is your employee record. On the employee screen, we're going to open up an employee that was listed. We're going to go to their job and pay section. Look under current pay. You can see in this red box, we have some new things that have been added to the current pay tab. And it's the EEO-1 pay band and the EEO-1 total hours worked. If everything is working properly, that update pay data process that we ran takes the information from payroll and pushes it over here to the employee current pay tab. It's kind of a reverse update. One thing that I want to point out is that if you did get the warning and you got the error log, the warning said to make corrections and rerun the update pay data, but that is exactly what you are doing right now. You're doing the same thing that the update pay data process does when you manually make this change. There's no need for you to rerun the update pay data. I am one of those who likes to test it out by saying, oh, well, I fixed it now, so when I rerun this, I won't get the error again. You still get the same list of employees that it can't push over to the employee record. Don't be too disappointed. That's to be expected. Another side note, there used to be a belief that the EEO-1 pay band was based on the annual salary, but that's not true. You should be using the W-2 Box 1 number for the EEO-1 pay band. The way that we usually find that is that we look at what the employee's federal income tax wage base is, the number that we use for the pay band. For example, the report that I have here on the screen shows a U.S. fit of $47,717.66. This particular employee that I ran this for actually had an annual salary of something like $63,000 a year. If I used their annual salary, I would actually be putting them in the wrong pay band because that would bump them into a different pay band. We want to definitely use, according to the EEO website, we do want to use the Wage 2 Box 1 pay data for that band. After making any of the corrections that we needed to do or reviewing that current pay tab for all of our employees, now we're ready to run the EEO-1 headcount summary e-file. The way that we do that, we go to the Reports section. Under Employees, we will select EEO Reports. We get the EEO Reports listing. Inside the EEO Reports, you want to select the EEO-1 headcount summary e-file report. This will create the .csv file that is required to upload on the NORC website. They are very particular about the file format, etc., that you upload. Once you create the file, you don't want to open the file, you don't want to review the file for fear that some formatting or something may get changed. On the Report List tab, select the Headcount Summary e-file. Then on the next tab, Standard Criteria, you want to select your employer. In that drop-down, you'll see all of the employers that you have available inside your system. You're also, if you are a multiple employer company, at the very top of that list, there is a multi-employer option. If you have this, you're familiar, you know if you select multi-employer, a new window will pop up where you will select your reporting agencies and move them into the group that you are going to use as your selected group, and then you'll proceed to the next step from there. We pick our employer on the Standard Criteria tab. We move to the Specific Criteria tab. Here you'll enter your reporting period dates. Best practice suggests that you use the same dates you used for your earlier filing this year. You want to leave the employee type blank because that's how it will know to include all employees. If you select a particular type, that is the only group of employees that you will get on your report. We have put all our criteria in. We want to click the preview button and we have a preview of the report come up. Now you'll see this is the number of employees information that's just like we saw earlier this year when we did our EEO-1. Prior to this section, there's all of the employer information section. I didn't think we really needed to share that here, but following this section is going to be a new section. This is the number of hours worked by pay band. The structure of the report looks very similar. We've got our job categories and we've got our race and our gender. Within each of the job categories, you're going to have a row by pay band, and each pay band is going to show you the number of hours by race and gender. Following the number of hours worked report, there's going to be another section that has the pay band legend. This is the legend that was established by the EEO with their codes for their reporting purposes. Once you've been satisfied with the review of the preview, everything looks good, go ahead and close the preview, then click Export under your last criteria tab. When you do, you're going to get this first screen that says File Export Options. It should automatically populate with that electronic submission in the drop-down. If that's not there, that is the file type that you want to choose because, again, that is the one that will provide you the CSV file that we need. So once you have that, you'll click Export, And then you're going to see the second window pop up, which is the EEO-1 e-file selection. So here, you're going to have to enter your 8-digit user ID number that was provided by NORC. Once you put this user ID in, it will actually show up on every line of your report. You'll want to answer the yes or no question. When you click OK, pretty quickly it runs through everything it needs to do, and you get this message that says the MAG Media file completed successfully. However, it doesn't tell you where you can get your file. Definitely make note of this file path. You will want to go here on your machine to retrieve the report. Once you get into this file, the export file, you will find a document titled Upload File 2017 with a series of numbers .csv, and it has today's date. This is your file that you will upload. Do not open this file. Again, it's so picky, and you do not want to open it and risk changing some sort of formatting. Sometimes text items go bad if we open one of these files. Sometimes we'll lose leading zeros. There could be all kinds of issues. So we don't want to deal with that. Go ahead, and you've already previewed in the other readable documents. So I think you should be good enough. Just go ahead and take this file, and this is what you are going to go out to the NORC website, and you're going to upload it on their website following their instructions. Here's the website that you want to file or upload the 2017 report before you start working on 2018 reporting in Abra Suite. I know some of us like to work two angles at once, right? I'm working on the upload while the system could be churning out the numbers for the next report. My problem is, if for some reason NORC does not accept my report, I cannot roll back those numbers, and that has become an issue for a few of us. Good luck to you, and definitely reach out to us if you have any questions.
Was this video helpful? Click subscribe to see more videos like this one.